Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Configura's Web Configurator seminar at the Stockholm Furniture Fair 2020. And today, Pontus will talk about how our Web Configurator works. And of course, after the seminar, you get to ask him tons of questions. So please just welcome Pontus.
All right, thank you. So thank you for coming to the seminar. This is actually my first time visiting the Stockholm Furniture and Light Fair. So I've been going around visiting the different booths, looking at all the beautiful stuff here. Been really interesting so far. So what I want to start off is talk a bit about Configura. So what we do is that we design spaces. We make configuration made simple. So what that means is that we develop a software for professional users where they can design different types of spaces. But it's much more than that. We also bring in like logic and specificity. So let's say that you are designing an office space and you bring in a table into the design. You can start stretching that table out so you can make it longer. And the logic then will, for instance, add extra legs so it's functional the way it should be. And once the designer feels like, okay, I have a good design, I wanna realize this, the program has keep track of pretty much everything, the part numbers, the pricing, all of that stuff to actually bring this into reality. And that's a pretty sweet program, I gotta tell you. Now, we are active in a lot of different types of industries, office furniture being one, kitchen and bath is another one, material handling, just to name a few big ones. And our software CET design is actually industry leading in a couple of them, which is really, really cool. So just to kind of give you a sense of what we're capable of doing, I have incorporated a few renderings from CET Designer of real drawings that then have been rendered by real designers. So this is a kitchen. It's by Catherine Joyce Cruz. It is very, very nice looking, and everything here has been designed in 3D and then rendered to this very, very nice picture. Here's another one by Carl Jensen Tsai, another beautiful kitchen. Here we have an office space instead, and this is by Jessica Aldred. And the last one, very cozy kind of a home space, very nicely looking, and this is by John Anthony Juice. So, to be able to do this, we have created a platform. And that platform enables partners to create this kind of amazing content. So we are not the content creators, they are. And what we have done is that we have given them the tools to be able to do so. And I think we have always at Configura had the kind of vision to push forward, to be better, to broaden ourselves into new industries, to do better, more features, being able to do those kind of realistic renderings. So you got to ask yourself then, what is the next step, or at least one of them, because we do a lot of things. And the reason we're here today is we're going to talk about the web. I think we all are familiar with the web in some kind of sense today. We are surrounded by it constantly, right? And for these presentations, I'm looking at the numbers, and there are approximately 4 billion users using the web actively today. Which makes it a massive force. It's a very intriguing medium, and it's incorporated in almost everything today, from desktop applications to mobile applications, pretty much in all software there is. And we at Configura have been doing web stuff for a long time, obviously. But my point here is that we always broaden ourselves, right? So what if instead of broadening us to a new industry, we're actually broadening ourselves to a new medium instead? So what if we can bring 3D to the web? So now that we know kind of why we're here, I just want to stop and present myself and present our team a little bit. As I said before, my name is Pontus Wallberg. I have been at Configura for 3 years. I've been doing web development and product development for the past 10 years. And about a year ago, I was fortunate enough to start this team. It's called Web R&D. It was me and the other guy at the picture who started it. But today we have grown. We are 5 people now in the team. And this is really new kind of investment for Configura. So by the name of it, we are doing research and development, and we're doing it for the web space. But also narrow it down a little bit more, we're doing 3D on the web. So this is a huge push and a very big investment. So I talked about content before. We have a platform. Our partners create content, and hopefully by doing so, they get a big, nice return on investment, because they pay a lot of money. They invest a lot of time, effort to putting the content in there. So what we want to go ahead and do now is provide even more value based on the same content. That's kind of the fundamental reason to why our team exists, I would say. So yes, content reuse for web apps. Now, there are challenges today. We have talked to a lot of partners. When we started the team, we started talking to an array of partners to just kind of get a vision of, or a sense of how the market looks today, how it is for a manufacturer out there. Because a manufacturer, for instance, a furniture manufacturer, they produce furniture and they want to sell those furniture. So then they do so by putting them into different kinds of sales channels, and one being CT Designer. But they may also have their products on their website. They may have their products on a dealer's website, and they may have other kind of professional software as well. So what this means is that you have to put your content in all of these kind of different systems, and you have to keep track of them. If you update a price, you have to go through and update all of them. And depending on how streamlined you are internally, this could be 5 different people that you have to talk to, 5 different people that have to do their job simultaneously, otherwise things go out of sync. And for this, our partners feel that this is very frustrating, which is why if we can allow them to reuse the content that they have already put in our platform, that is a big win. If you can reuse that for other purposes, it's a huge win. So we have a platform, but we also have products in our platform, and this is one of the products we have, and it's called Catalogs. Basically, it's a database, a way for you to store product information. You can store all of these things. You can store your prices, you can store your part numbers, you can store the features. And by features, I mean, like if you have a chair here, you can have a high back, you can have a low back. You can store the different types of materials. I want to have a green fabric, a blue fabric, jeans fabric, for instance. But you also store your geometry, meaning the 3D representation of that product. This system is very, very flexible. You can do a lot with it. We also created a graphical user interface for it, so it's fairly easy to get started, fairly easy to bring this to market. So the barrier is very low, which makes it very, very powerful. So let's say that you start putting your things in catalogs. We already have them in catalogs. Then by doing so, you can start to use it in CT Designer, for instance. Then you are reaching all of these professional designers, and you're going through that sales channel. But what we now have done is that we have opened up so you can start reusing the catalog system elsewhere. And for instance, that could be a web shop. So what we're thinking here is that you put your product and you have your single source of truth of data, and you can start reusing that in multiple different applications instead of having to manually maintaining different data locations. This is kind of the schematic overview of the entire thing. So as I said, we have a catalog system that talks already today with CT Designer. What we in our team have done now is that we have created a web API, which enables you to fetch that data. So all the product information, all your products, materials, etc., that we talked about before, you can now get that and start reusing it in other types of applications. But just getting the data, we felt that isn't enough. We talked about 3D. We want to do 3D on the web, which is why we've created the SDK, and that stands for Software Development Kit. So a way for you to work easily with your data outside of CT Designer. Yes, endless possibilities. So from our side, we felt we wanna keep everything as general as possible. And I think this comes from that Configura built the CT platform being very broad, very general, to bring a lot of different types of industries. And we wouldn't want to put this product in this specific spot. So we don't bring any kind of influence into what you should do with it. We feel like you should be able to do anything you want with it. Now, the next couple of slides will be a bit more technical, just to warn you, but I think we will struggle through. So a web API, what that means is that you use the HTTP methods. And most programs can talk with the HTTP. But that meaning, because when you hear web API, you start thinking, oh, this is for my website, or this is for my web app. But if you want to integrate this into an iOS app, an Android app or something, you could. Anything that could talk to the web could utilize this API, okay? And the API by itself is a service that we are providing, meaning that we are gonna spin up servers that is available across the globe. And we do that because we wanna reduce the latency. We want the users to talk to the nearest server they can to get the best experience. And security, always super important. This is something we have thought about from day one. So everything we do is over HTTPS, which is using the TLS certificate, meaning that when you talk to the API, it's encrypted. But we also implemented a system called access tokens. Basically, what that means is you have to sign off on who will be able to get your product information. So no one can just go around and just start looking at it if you don't want to. So the SDK then, as I said, it stands for Software Development Kit, because that is what it is. It is tools for developers to start integrating this into an app or a website. And we have built it in a modular way, meaning if you, as a partner, want to do very, very little, you want to get up and running as fast as possible, you could use all our stuff out of the box, and you could start looking at your content in 3D directly. But if you want to do heavy customization, perhaps you have the need for do your own 3D viewer for some reason, you could use all of the other different packages surrounding that if you want to. Or if you want to bring in your own technologies, you could do that as well. Yeah, the rest is we are doing everything in very modern things. We're doing that because we want to keep it safe. So we use types, which makes the code less error prone, which is good for the customers because the code will be less buggy. And we use something called Rust, which we do because we can compile that to something called WebAssembly, which makes it blazing fast compared to regular JavaScript. So I think this is very effective because when you talk to when you talk about the SDK, you kind of get the feeling, oh, this is programming, this is code, but this is what it's about. This is what it spins up. It's visualization of the product data. And since we are focusing on showing one product, you can configure one product at a time, we can afford to bring the level of detail very, very high compared to if you want to have 100 different objects at the same time. So what we have here on the right side is our real live 3D viewer, which compared to the other one is a rendered version from CT, a render done being like the pictures we saw earlier. So you can obviously see that the shadowing is much nicer here on this one, which has the floor. There's also better lighting and stuff like that, but I would say we have come pretty darn close to actually matching that in real life 3D, which makes it very, very good for this type of applications, because you want your customers to be able to see the product as it is, right? When they make perhaps a buying decision. Another thing that we do well, there are different solutions out there compared to this Web Configurator, but because we are doing live 3D, we can handle a ton of different combinations. And because we're using the catalog system and everything is specified over there, for instance, we have our base share up to the right corner, the left corner, and you could choose different types of materials. You could choose the different types of backs and all of the combinations between, right? Now this is only a few ones, but let's say that we had 1,000 materials or 1,000 backs. We could still handle that, and we can update it like this in the 3D directly, which is very, very powerful. So we package this we're calling it the Web Configurator, but again, I just want to stress the important here that you could use this in multiple things, and it's just not a configurator. If you feel like, oh, it would be good to just get the product data to put into this Excel spreadsheet or something like that, you could do an API call and get that data and just put it in there. So I just want you to have this with you when you think about it, what the possibilities are. Yes, we have prepared a little demo. So I'm going to show you two things. The first, we're calling it example app. This is our reference point. This is what you're getting out of the box. We have kept it very clean, as I said, very general. And then for this purpose, we have also created a mock web shop to kind of show you how you could customize this to see the potential in the API and SDK. Yes. So the first view, let's say that you have created your first catalog, which we have done here, my demo catalog. What it will happen is when you spin it up, you will display that catalog, or you would display many catalogs. And then it would display the different types of products that you have defined. And the main part of it is the 3D configuration viewer. So this is the demo share I've been showing you before. And out of the box, you get, so you can spin this around. You can start looking at it from different types of angles. You can zoom in to really get a good look here from the center point. You can zoom out if you want to get a nice, better overview. And what you also can do is that you can start changing different backs, for instance. You can change the fabric, perhaps this one, yeah. And as you can see, as I click here, that everything is pretty fast. It's doing the configuration on the fly. It's updating the parts of the 3D that needs to be updated. And all of this is just specified in data that we are getting to the browser and applying it right here. And you also have all the product information you need if you want to be able to do something else with it. So you see that we have the pricing here. We also have the part numbers and stuff like that. So now, if you would like to integrate this into something else, because this is looking very, very general, right? It doesn't do very much. We have together by RJ, with RJ, created a mock web shop. They were kind enough to let us use their catalogs. So what we have here is a very simple web shop that is completely driven by the catalog system. So I'm fetching all of the products inside of 2 catalogs, actually. And on our end, we have then put up different types of small categories here, quick categories. And if you flip this around, you can see the different products that we have. This is the curated list. And we also created categories. and then you can browse through them and see the different products here as well. We did a very simple search just to kind of show you what you can do here. Now, if we go here, I kept it pretty similar to the other one, just because you want to see how easily you can kind of customize this, because this isn't that much. This isn't that much work to do. I still kept it pretty large, full screen, but we put up the menu bar and stuff, and it works exactly as it did before. You can spin this around, start inspecting it. You can choose the different fabrics that AJ has defined in their catalog. And as I said before, because we have all the product data, we are not providing like an interface to a web shop, but because you have the data, you could just send it into your CMS system or whatever it is you want to do. So just to show you that you can do that, is we have created a add to cart, and if this were Shopify or Magento or something, you would just put it in there, and then it will populate that web shop for you. And you can obviously go up and down here to specify even more. Yes. Now, when we first created this and we started talking to people, what would they use this for? You kind of quickly came into the realization that no one is alike. Everyone to do special things. They want to be able to do more. So the first two additional services that we came up with align parallel to the API is export and render, and the first one being export. So we stumble upon a scenario, for instance, if perhaps you don't sell your products at your website, perhaps you just show them. And let's say that an architect comes into your website and they feel like, oh, this is a very nice looking chair. I would like to use it in my drawing. And that could be a potential sale for you later on. Then what we heard then is that they would like to be able to export that into a format that the architect could use. So out of the box today, we support the FBX format. It's a very versatile format. But in the future, we want to be able to support even more formats later on. Yes, the second one being rendering. And this is like it sounds. There are certain scenarios where you would like to get that extra level of detail of your product, like we showed before, where you bring in the shadows even nicer, you bring in perhaps a scene, you bring in much nicer lighting, you get it ray traced and all that good stuff. So we created a call where you can configure a product, you send in the product information and say, I want to have this as a nice image. Now this could be, for instance, if you want to put it into a PDF, or you want to send it to a client, or perhaps you want to print it. There are different types of scenarios where this could be useful. It's always good to know how you pay for things. So we thought hard and long on this, and we tried to keep it as simple as possible. So there are two fees you pay. The first one being an annual fee, which you pay for the service that you want. So you pay access to the API servers, meaning that you get the access to the API servers across the globe. You get access to the SDK that you can use to visualize your data, but you are allowed to use the same API and SDK in how many apps you want. So let's say that you, for some reason, have 10 websites that you want to sell stuff. You still only need to buy access once. What we instead did was we added a usage price, which basically means that depending on how much you use the API, you pay for that. So basically, you're paying for server load. That is the concept. And the additional services have the same structure, but they have separate fees. And they do that because if we talk, for instance, the rendering, if you do a regular API call, you want to fetch your product information. That is very, very quick. Doesn't take up very much activity on a server. But doing a nice rendered image, that can take a long time, meaning it will be a higher cost for doing a call like that. So it's fairly straightforward, and not everyone wants to be able to export, not everyone wants to be able to render. So you can kind of pick and choose the best parts here that you want to set up at your own website. Yes, we are available now with this product. So I don't know if someone here is actually a manufacturer on Configura today, but if you are, you can go into our website and sign up for this. If you aren't, you could still start using the catalog system, and once you have the catalogs, you could start and sign up for this. So if you're interested, I have my card and we have our booth here, so you can just come by. I would think that it's good to talk a little bit about the future as well. As I said in the beginning, 3D platform, being able to do very cool things on the web. Space planning, it feels like it's in Configura's blood, and doing a single product configurator is very cool, and I would just see that as the first stepping stone toward something much more advanced. Our goal has always been that we are going to do space planning on the web. I can't say exactly how, or I can't even say when, but we now have a dedicated team to actually start moving toward that goal. So I just want to say that expect really cool things happening from Configura on the web and 3D aspect. All right, thank you. Any questions? No.
Questions?
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Pontus, once
Yep.
again. And if you you are free to stay around and talk to our people here until 3 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.